call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now, today we'll be taking a look at Robin Tim Drake from Rebirth. Now, this is a figure that I really liked the images of when they were shown from McFarlane. Just a little bit more what I think of when I imagine Tim Drake Robin. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussion online that this is really going to be the best version of Tim Drake. Now, we'll get into what I really think. There are things that I really enjoyed, some things I didn't like, but for the most part, I do have to say I did enjoy this figure. Now, he does look pretty tenacious in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, of course, these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with his data file card. On the front, you do have a very nice image of Tim Drake as Robin. Now, this is where you get into if it's really comic accurate or if it's close enough to being comic accurate. A lot of people were unhappy with the scale, which doesn't really ever bother me, especially because of the Batman that is my favorite Batman to use. Not to mention the fact that you can choose from a big assortment of Batmans that McFarlane has released. But pretty cool image of Tim Drake as Robin. Little older, you can tell that this is more of an adolescent age or a young youth, but a little bit older, getting more up into those higher teen years. On the back, you do have some information. Pretty sweet. We'll add that to the collection. Now, one thing that a lot of people were unhappy with is not really a lot of accessories in the form of weapons, but he does come with a big assortment of hands. He does come with two gripping hands, which pretty nice to hold batarangs or bow staffs or weapons of Tim Drake's choice. You also have these sort of open hands that we've seen before with the John Kent figure and the Jim Gordon as Batman. So pretty cool. We've seen those before. Now these I'm really excited about because I haven't really seen this form of hands, which are kind of open grasping, half gesturing hands. And these do give you a little bit more range when you're doing figure photography for action poses and fighting poses. So I really enjoy those. And he also does have two gesturing hands, of course, a thumbs up and a pointing hand. Now, we have seen these as well before, but it's pretty cool to get a huge assortment of hands. Now, these also come with the fact that he has two fisted hands, so that makes a total of 5 pairs of hands that you get with this Tim Drake Robin. And while people say, how come a lot of collector's editions from McFarlane don't come with so many alternate hands, but then you have the regular standard release $20 figures that come with, a huge assortment of hands. This is a very big point of contention with a lot of the figures released from McFarlane. Now, there is a sort of silver lining, and that is that with the different alternate hands that we are getting, you can spread them out to different figures, give them a little paint job, and, apply them to a character that didn't really get a lot of hands, which is something that I like to do, although it would be less troublesome if McFarlane would just go ahead and start adding a lot more alternate hands with more of the figures. But we shall see in the future. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at this guy. Now, first impressions, just from the look, This is by far going to be my favorite version of Tim Drake Robin. Just the sleekness of the suit, the color scheme, the head sculpt, the wired cape, everything, the whole package put together really make this a very desirable Tim Drake Robin. Now, just in looks and aesthetically, this is a beautiful Tim Drake Robin figure. Really happy with the execution of this Robin. Now let's take a closer look at the head sculpt, which is one of my favorite parts. I mean, there's a couple of things I enjoy about this Robin, but the head sculpt definitely gives you a little bit more of that Tim Drake quirkiness. Love the hair sculpt. The domino mask is definitely painted on well, and you do have a little, smirk to the smile, which is always appreciated. Really cool. We'll get into that a little bit later on because I really enjoy this head sculpt. Now, articulation wise, he does look down well, looks up pretty high. You got right to left, and of course, you can tilt his head for some attitude, which really fits this version of Robin. Now, going down, they did a great job on this upper torso. It is a different sculpt. Although this is based on the original John Kent body, it does have its own original sculpted pieces and details. The upper body looking completely new, the armor, and although the Robin R is not sculpted in, it's just painted on, it is really nicely applied. You got a little bit of sculpt on the bands that go across the chest, which tells you this is a different sculpt from any of the other Robin suits we've received. Going down to a pretty nice utility belt, original utility belt. Let's go ahead and take a look at the waist articulation. You do have side to side, really smooth. You got that full tilt to whirl at the waist, lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel. You can twist him, get him in some cool poses. Now he does have a rather nice forward crunch, which you can see here, almost bending down in an L shape. Now you could add a little bit more on this by modding it, but for what it is, you get a nice range, and of course you can lean back. Per usual with McFarlane figures, all in all, really happy with the articulation in the waist. Let's take a look at the shoulder. You do have that socket and bushy shoulder joint, which gives you a lot of range of movement. You got up and down, front to back in that faux butterfly shoulder joint, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, which look really clean. Straighten them back out. You're moving down from that shoulder armor that he has down into the gauntlets. Most of this being new added sculpt or added appliances to give this Robin a different look. Now into that fist, you got the 4 ways of articulation at the wrist from McFarlane. On the other side, we have the same thing. Pretty nice. Get him in a T pose pretty easily. Arms above the head. Now they are a little bit splayed out because of the shoulder guard that he has around his neck over his shoulders, but you could still get it for the most part. Moving down to the thighs, let's go ahead and take a look at that thigh swivel. He does have a very generous thigh swivel, which means you can move the boot from side to side without having a thigh cut. Kicks up very high, kicks back as well. Now you can get a lot of range out of this. That is why the trunks are made of rubber. And when you put it back, they go back to their original shape. Cock out his knee. He does have that McFarlane hip swivel. Double jointed knees, straighten them out. Up and down at the ankle, right to left. Rocker, and of course, toe articulation. Now, before we move on, taking a complete look at that lower body. This, of course, is the most reused from the original John Kent buck. You could see the added sculpted details on the calves, which really doesn't bother me with this one at all. I mean, you don't really see it because it's all black. They have some added green paint details to the thighs. And something I really love about this one is the green paint that they added around the trim. And that's a little detail that I really like on this one, is just that added green gives it a little bit more, spice to the figure than for it just being bland and black. That little green accent just adds that little, pop. Take a look at him from the bottom. No tread, but he does have some identifying marks. Moving up the back, nothing really to notice except I would like to point out how the utility belt is sort of floating. It kind of moves up and down. It's not glued on necessarily to the trunks. Have a lot of cool detail, like tons of pouches and a little bit of rope hanging there. Pretty nice extra added detail to that belt. You get into the cape, which of course is a wired cape. Really like the size, really like the smooth movement that the wire allows you to have. You can easily, get get a side, like it's blowing from the side, or get them jumping down off of a building where it's open and splayed like that. So these wired capes are something that really have grown on me, and I actually prefer them to both plastic and just your typical hanging cloth cape. So all in all, a great figure. Really love the look. We are going to have a little bit of fun with him. Not too much, but he is a pretty great Tim Drake Robin to add to the collection. Now, of course, you can change out the hands really easily. You can even get the artwork from the back of the box sort of matched up with the figure, which is pretty cool. Now, I did find that if you add the bow staff from, what is it, the Arkham Knights Robin, now that's a figure you could get pretty cheap. Not a big sought after figure, but this bow staff really works well with this Tim Drake Robin. It even has a little bit of green accent on there to match up with the costume. So he is a lot of fun in figure photography, has some great articulation, and I have to say, he's grown on me so much, and I have some plans for customizing. So I am going to be picking up 3 more of these. I do have 2 on the way. So that means I'll just need 1 more to end up buying 4 of these Robins. Now, one of the things I really want to do was I wanted to swap the head onto this version of Tim Drake Robin. Now, I'm just not a big fan of this head sculpt. I never have been. I had to make my own customized versions of this figure because I just was not happy with the head sculpt. I don't know what it was about it, but I think this one really captures that Tim Drake look. So I had to try the head swap. Now, I am kind of happy with this. I'm digging this. It does look a lot better. No, I'm not so sure if I'm going to go ahead and do a permanent, kit bash head swap. But for just checking out how it looks, it does look pretty good. So that's something that I may be looking into. Now, as far as scaling goes, first up, he should be matched up with this Rebirth Batman. I'm going to use the blue version from the Digital Wave. Now, the thing about this one is he is slightly taller than him. Of course, that's supposed to be a young, youthful teen body. And he's just barely taller than him, not by much. The shoulders pretty much could show you how he's, a couple of inches taller than him. But for some reason, it just does not look right. Luckily for me, that's not a Batman that I really use when I do a lot of figure photography. Now, you can bring in, this is my custom 3 Jokers Batman, and this one is taller than this Tim Drake. Not by a full head, but it's a lot more than the Rebirth Batman was. So I feel like this 3 Jokers Batman also looks pretty good next to this Robin. And right now they're having that Battle of the Batmans. The 2 finalists being this Nightfall Batman. We have the blue version here. Now, he is a smidgen taller than this Robin, but once again, doesn't tower over him. He's just slightly taller than him. Not much. But the good thing is that I use my Nightfall Batman for certain things, but he's not my definitive Batman that I use on the shelf. That honor really goes to the Blue Hush Batman. This is by far my favorite Batman from McFarlane. Aside from Grim Knight, this is definitely one of my favorite Batmans in the line. And you can tell he is way taller than this Tim Drake, at least a head taller, which makes it a little bit better the way it looks when you pose them together and do figure photography. Now, just for fun, we can go ahead and add a little bit of Damian Wayne, jerk action, and you can see how these guys scale together in a full, Bat family setup if that's something you would like to do for figure photography. Now, the good part about this whole multiverse is that there are different size Batmans, different size Robins, different versions of all of these characters that you can play with to get some really awesome displays and figure photography. But anyways, guys, pretty happy with this one. I will be buying multiples of him to do some customizing and head swapping. And I do feel like this is gonna be one of the figures it's gonna go up in price here in the near future. So get them while you can. I mean, this one already hit the market, so you still got time to pick them up and add them to your collection. But anyways, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.